And welcome, everybody, to another Nothing Like a Good Book. And I got a ripper for you today. It's a lovely story. My special guest, an author for this episode, has practiced veterinary medicine right through his golden years. And he's quoted as saying, every day was a different adventure. I can imagine so. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Maine and then went on to graduate from the New York State College of Veterinary Medicine. That's at Cornell University back in 1970. And after a year working in Long Island, New York, he purchased a mixed animal practice in Maine, which expanded to 4 veterinarians, and was later sold as Dr. Hutchins began his own consulting and equine practice, specializing in lameness and production. Like to welcome you, Dr. Douglas B. Hutchins. Hello, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be with you.
Ah, dear, oh dear. You have served as president of the Maine Veterinary Medical Association, a director of the Maine Standardbred Breeders and Owners Association, as well as its vice president. What would those positions have you doing, Doug? Can you explain that?
Well, we have an organization, the Maine Veterinary Medical Association, that's probably, I think, around 500 veterinarians. And you get an office, like I started as a director, and then I moved up to the secretary, became treasurer, vice president, and then you move up to president.
Wow. You'd learn a lot doing all of that, but you also served as an advisor.
No question about it. And then as far as the Standardbred Breeders and Owners Association, it's an organization we have in Maine.
Right.
We have a stakes program, and I became a director and then moved up to vice president.
Right. That's the Kennebunk Animal Shelter and York County Community College Animal Technician Program. What was that about?
That was a technician's program they started, and I was instrumental in getting the program started, and then I taught some courses on anatomy and physiology until it got so they could have regular staff, and I volunteered my time.
Fabulous.
And it's a very, very successful program.
We got to talk about your book soon. It's lovely, Dr. Doug's Animal Answers, and it's lovely. We're going to talk about that. I want to talk about you first, so my listeners get to know you a little. You've won many awards, including the Maine Veterinary Medical Association's Annual Service Award, while spending time working with the Maine State Police and York County's sheriff's canines. Those organizations, they would have served you well, Doctor, I would have thought.
Yes, a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, canines. Are they any
different? The police dogs were very interesting, very smart, and it was an interesting program they had because they were great at sniffing out for like drugs and so forth. As a matter of fact, they claim that a dog can detect 3 drops of a substance in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Their nose is better than any laboratory machine we've ever invented thus far.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Dr. Hutchins, ladies and gentlemen, he currently resides at his horse farm, naturally, in Cricket Hill in Lyman, is it? Lyman in Maine?
Lyman, Maine. That's a small town in York County close to Kennebunkport, where
sounds lovely.
President Bush used to live.
Oh.
Matter of fact, I used to take care of his animals when he came to Maine in the summertime.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. I can imagine it's beautiful and green and white fences and all that type of thing, yes?
Right. Got the nice ocean and everything.
Oh, beautiful. I got to visit there one day, I tell you. Sounds like my sort of place.
About to have a fresh lobster off the boat.
Don't make me jealous. Your wife, Shirley, and hello to Shirley, and together they have 3 daughters, 7 grandchildren. Whoa! And this I love, boxer dogs, 2 cats. That sounds pretty amazing in your retirement, Doc, but you still continue to be active, don't you, in owning and breeding and racing of standard-bred trotters. Is that right?
Right.
Wow. Have you had many wins?
Matter of fact, I bred a trotter that ended up standing stud at Hanover Shoe Farms.
Really?
I sold him for $190,000, then he was syndicated for in the millions of dollars at Hanover. His name was Baja.
Baja. Wow, that's a lot of dough. Well done. You bred him for that.
Yeah.
So what inspired you, when you look back, what inspired you to become a veterinarian in the first place?
Well, as I said in my book, I was at my grandfather's farm. My grandfather had a small dairy farm, milked 22 Guernsey cows by hand every day. And I used to work there when I was a young kid. I used to go and stay at my grandmother's. I loved it there. It was a beautiful place right off the Penobscot Bay.
Right.
And I saw this cow have this calf, and then she ended up developing milk fever. So she was really just laid right out, looked like she was going to die. And my grandfather went over to the neighbors because he didn't have a telephone and called Dr. Brown from Belfast. And he bragged about Dr. Brown being the best vet in the world. So Dr. Brown drove in, and he came in, and he gave this cow that was laid out, I thought she was going to die, a bottle of calcium. And he no more than took the needle out of that cow's vein, and the cow sort of shook her head and said moo, like, thank you. And she jumped up on her feet like nothing had ever happened, and the calf started to nurse.
Huh.
And I was just so amazed at that. I said, wow. And that, I said, if I could do that, that would be a great living, working for the farmers and traveling the countryside, being your own boss. I thought it was a great profession. So I kept it all through high school and then college. And then luckily I was able to get into Cornell. When I applied to Cornell, they were taking 60 students a year, and 40 of them were in New York State. So I had to take one of 20 positions. Right. And they ended up interviewing 100 and took 20 of us. So I was quite fortunate to get in vet school. It was tough to get in at that time. There were only 17 vet schools in the country when I applied.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, by the sounds of things and stories like that, I mean, I guess that's what shaped your book, really, you know, how your career actually shaped the book called Animal Answers. Everything's in there. What makes
I called it Animal Answers because that's what I had to find out from my patients that could not speak.
Yes, I noticed that bit. In fact, I'm going to read a couple of excerpts in a moment, but I just want to clear this here. What makes a particular experience with an animal stick with you? What is,
gosh,
a tough one? There've been so many, I guess. Yeah. You touched on the canines before, so they're a little special. There's something there. But is there another animal that, I mean, it's like they understand you. You can talk to them.
You learn to relate to them, there's no question. And I think it's amazing. I think the human-animal bond is kind of an interesting bond. And I think you can sort of feel it with an animal when you're with them. I mean, I think when an animal's sick sometimes, I think they can understand that you're trying to help them. I really do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing how some animals have got the will to live, like many people, and some don't. It's just, I really can't explain it.
It's like a miracle, isn't it, really?
It is. Yeah, a great profession. Yeah.
This book, folks, from Douglas B. Hutchins, MS, DVM. It's called Animal Answers. And Grady Harp, in fact, from Amazon, Top 100 Reviewer, he says this: one of the many aspects of this entertaining and informative book that makes it such an invaluable read is the author's conversational manner of relating not only his personal history, but also his experiences with animal patients and their owners. That's a very nice review. And there's another one from Flying Books Review, 5 stars, in fact, that for this book, Dr. Doug's Animal Answers is more than a collection of veterinary stories. It's a celebration of the human-animal bond, a tribute to a profession built on service, and a reminder that when you love what you do, it never feels like work. Isn't that true? So, how do you combine a memoir, historical record, and an educational guide all into one book?
Well, I just started with the reason that I wanted to be a veterinarian. I thought it was an interesting story, and then I learned that if you really want to do something and you work hard enough, the sky's the limit. I mean, I look at myself. I went to a one-room school, then I was able to get into Cornell, graduate, have a great profession, and so set your dreams and go for it.
Well, I think, would I be right in saying, Doctor, that the way the future's going, it's probably one of the best niche industries or careers that one could choose?
Well, interestingly, the veterinary medicine has really changed. Now it's predominantly become a women's profession. The University of Pennsylvania, I believe, has 100 and some students, and they're all female this year.
Really?
Yeah. And I
what
mean,
do you think that is?
It's amazing. When I went to veterinary college at Cornell, we had 60 students, 60s in my class, and only two females.
Yeah, it's interesting as time goes on. I just wonder, it's hard to ask.
Well, part of it is economics. I mean, the average salary of a veterinarian is around probably $130,000, $140,000 a year. So it's not it's not like an MD or a specialist.
Right.
So the income is somewhat limited. But I mean, I just went into veterinary medicine because I loved it. It's what I wanted to do. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Money was secondary to me.
That's right. Love what you do. I'm going to read, if I may, Doctor, I'd like to read this. This is an excerpt from your book, Animal Answers. Suddenly, I thought about myself, the great life I had experienced, and the many interesting people and animal cases I'd been part of. I decided to write a book. The book is entitled Animal Answers, as that is what I had to find out in my patients that could not speak. The book starts with my fulfilling my childhood dream of becoming a veterinarian. The second part deals with the many special clients that are such an integral part of any veterinary practice. They taught me the realism of life, its ups and downs, and their love and devotion to our four-legged friends. Many of them become our best lifelong friends. It also encompasses the numerous caring and loving animals that I was lucky enough to have as patients, their individual cases, situations, and circumstances that played such an important and integral role in the building of my practice. You probably can remember so many animals' names over the years. Could you?
I didn't get the question.
Animals' names, do you remember them over the years, like people?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
What is the human-animal bond? What is that?
The human-animal bond is basically a mutual relationship between animals and humans that benefits both. For instance, we have service dogs that tend to do different things for people, such as people that have handicap. They need a guide dog, like blindness or something like that.
Right.
Then you have a dog that just basically someone has attention deficit disorder or just the psychological feeling of having a dog is comforting to them.
Right.
So with that bond and so forth that way. But
yes.
The human-animal bond also goes even with horses. It's questionable now. They're saying now that is the dog man's best friend. It could be the horse could be man's best friend. Because in evolution, we domesticated the dog. He came to us because he was prey for other animals.
Right.
And he came and we took care of him and domesticated him. And the horse, interestingly enough, horses were used for actually meat in the olden days. I think the horse has been around for like 55 million years.
Yeah, long
and
time.
Then all of a sudden, somebody apparently jumped on the horse and realized he could travel farther, faster, easier. And the interesting thing is that the horse played such an integral part in wartime.
Yes.
Like Washington on his horse was just such a magnificent and dynamic creature, and it just commanded so much authority.
Yes.
And
wonderful. Yeah, they're beautiful. And of course, sick people in hospital, when they have a doggy, it just seems to change and help them. And the bond is amazing.
No question about it.
Absolutely.
I had the story of had this lady that had to go in the hospital, and she came to me, and I didn't board dogs in the clinic, and she said, "Would you mind keeping my dog? He's the only place he's known is here." And I said, "Certainly." So when she was in the hospital, I don't think she had any other relatives. I went to go home one night, and I looked, and I saw a dog there, and I all of a sudden I grabbed the dog, ran to the hospital, walked in. Of course, I had my scrubs on, so I passed as a doctor. I could hide the dog because it was only about a 30-pound mixed breed dog. And I ran in and I put the dog on the floor, and she went out and saw the owner, who was sort of in a semi-coma, an IV running, and that dog licked her hand, and all of a sudden she woke up, and it was just like amazing, like her sorcerer friend just. And the nurse could not believe the change in that woman when she saw her dog. So then I kept bringing her in every day, and the woman ended up going home, and everything was fine.
Isn't that fabulous? What a lovely story. In fact, I'm going to read another excerpt from your book. I'm speaking with Dr. Douglas B. Hutchins. His beautiful book is called Animal Answers. It's on Amazon and all over the place. He says, look, one cannot write a book on veterinary practice and not mention Lyme disease. Now, this disease, along with heartworm, has impacted veterinary medicine since the 70s. Lyme disease is the most common vector-borne disease in North America, with the Centers for Disease Control estimating, listen to this, up to 400,000 human cases per year. Now, with its wide range of clinical symptoms that could mimic the common cold. That's the problem. And it's been devastating as the most painful and crippling of diseases. It's been termed the Great Pretender. And many have stated it is underdiagnosed and overtreated. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that people miss it as a common cold. They don't think they've got Lyme disease. They got a cold, and they will treat them for a cold instead of Lyme disease.
Well, I got to ask you, how do you get it?
How do you get Lyme disease? You get Lyme disease from a tick. The tick is called Borrelia burgdorferi, and when it bites you, the organism gets in your system and can cause anything from a rash and then go away and no problems, or it can cause things like lameness, neurological symptoms, seizures. It can get devastating.
Yes.
Matter of fact, my daughter worked on Nantucket Island one summer waiting on as a waitress. Her boyfriend was out there working, so she was on Nantucket Island, and she came home and she had a rash on her neck. And I said, Lori, what happened? She said, Dad, I got bit by a tick. So then she goes back to college at Middlebury, which is up in Vermont in the cold winter. And in February, she called me and she says, Dad, I'm in the infirmary. They think I've got mono. She said, I can hardly move. My legs are sore. My knees are sore. I ache all over.
Yeah, like the flu.
I said, Lori, you don't have a mono. I said, you have them check you for Lyme disease. And they did. And her titer was like a 4 positive.
Yep.
They put her on doxycycline, and the next day she was fine.
Whoa.
So I'm convinced that had I not known her history,
yes,
and she hadn't called me, they could have mistreated her, and she could have been a chronic Lyme patient down the road. Because the organism can stay in your system, and it can recrudesce. In times of stress and your immune system gets weak, the organism can take over and make you sick. So it's a devastating disease.
Oh, boy, it sounds very similar. Well, it's not as painful what I have, but it's taken me. We've got a similar thing in Arizona where if you weren't brought up here, although I've been here 20 years now, the point is you get a thing called valley fever, and it's from a spore in the earth, right? And it can stay with you. And I've been misdiagnosed for a couple of years, and they finally did the right darn thing, and I'm on this fluconazole stuff, but it's supposed to take, a couple of years, maybe more, before it'll leave you. And it's not much fun, but Lyme is even worse. You've got severe pain with Lyme. I mean, it poses, by the sounds of things, Doctor, it poses such a risk to animals.
Oh, no question. But it's interesting that most animals develop immunity to Lyme disease. And then the ones that develop immunity and survive continue to live, and the ones that get sick and die, so we sort of breed Lyme into our system that we can tolerate it.
Right.
And that happens with a lot of diseases that, the ones that get sick and die of it, for some reason, their immunity or so forth So you eliminate that one, and then the survival of the fittest, I guess, is what you would call it.
For over 50 years, Daniel Roth has lived for that moment. A 2-time Grammy Award winner, former publisher at Simon & Schuster, and executive at HarperCollins, he's helped countless writers turn ideas into art, whether it's a novel, a screenplay, or a documentary. Daniel brings the experience of Hollywood and publishing together, helping creators find the story that truly connects. Now he's showing that passion, teaching, guiding, and inspiring writers of all ages to make.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Roth. I'm an editor. I can help you find your story. Give me a call.
What sort of animal, be it dog or horse or whatever, what's most prone to Lyme?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that probably the dog is prone to it, but it's also able to develop pretty good immunity.
That's
and now,
good.
of course, we have a vaccine, too.
Right.
The horse can get Lyme, very difficult diagnosis. I believe there's a pathognomonic sign, which means if the horse has this symptom, it is Lyme disease. He gets a greenish ring at the corneal scleral junction of his eye.
Oh.
And if you see that, means he has Lyme disease. And Lyme disease can go in stages too. Sometimes it can sort of be quiet, and then the animal gets stressed, sick, get a cold or something like that, and then it can recrudesce.
Yeah, I mean, animals, they can get sick too. I mean, you include, in fact, in the book, a specific section about pets and another thing called holidays. Why are the holidays, of all things, a risky time for pets?
Well, you've just got, I always pick on Christmas because Christmas we celebrate over a 2 or 3 week period, so the length of Christmas is longer. You've got people wrapping presents, so dogs' toys laying around. Dog can swallow a small toy, a doll, or a rattle, or some small item.
Right.
And then we talk about chocolate is a big treat, and chocolate toxicity can be fairly common in the dog. Luckily, they have you have a guide you can go by on the level of chocolate the horse-fed dog gets. It's very treatable.
Why is it? What is it with doggies? I mean, I've got a little doggie, right? And I'm petrified. Make sure he doesn't have chocolate. Is it the cocoa in it, or what is it?
It's a theobromide, and there's
theobromide.
Yeah,
in chocolate.
You got caffeine and theobromide in chocolate.
And that could kill a dog, right?
It could if you got enough, yes.
Before I forget the story about your daughter, what did you do? How did you fix it? What was the, if anybody's listening, see, I want them to learn from what you did for your daughter.
Well, what I did, we diagnosed Lyme disease and we put her on doxycycline.
Okay.
Well, I mean, she was at Middlebury, but they didn't understand her being on Nantucket Island and picking up Lyme and having Lyme in her system.
I see.
So when she called me, I said, Laura, you have them treat you for Lyme disease. Get on some doxycycline. And she did, and she come right out of it.
Lucy's Literature gave you 5 stars for Animal Answers. She says, suddenly I thought about myself, the great life I had experienced, and when you were saying that you had many interesting people, animal cases I'd been part of, and then you decided to write the book. So Dr. Hutchins proves himself to be a talented writer and a dedicated veterinarian. He offers fresh insights that make the book unique and valuable. Sounds like a wonderful gift, actually, particularly in his discussion of the deep bond we have with animals. And that was another accolade for you there. And this excerpt from it says it all, I think. I have practiced veterinary medicine in what I feel were the golden years. Every day was a different adventure full of surprises. There was the good and the bad. No matter what, at the end of the day, the good won. Most of my clients were the most decent, caring, kind-hearted, understanding, and grateful people you would ever meet. However, the best part of every day was my patients. The ones that could not speak.
See, it's interesting. When I started veterinary medicine, everything was an emergency.
Yes.
Everything was sick. Whereas today they go for preventive care, vaccines, and then you have the specialists, you have the emergency clinics and so forth. So,
yes.
I mean, it was just so interesting. It was just amazing. You could go from milk fever to a colic or Like I had the interesting case of this horse was in the road with its foal, and this guy was driving his car, and it was foggy, and he saw the horse, and he hit the horse. Well, the horse was big, but he knocked the foal, who was only probably around 170 or 80 pounds, in the ditch. So we went, and the male was fine. The foal was laying there. It didn't appear to have any broken legs, so we put it in a blanket, lugged it into the barn, and put it in the stall where I could examine it better, and it was having trouble breathing.
Right.
Well, dogs and cats can get diaphragmatic hernias. The diaphragm is a membrane that separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity, and a very common injury, and they'll have a typical double push to their breathing because the intestines have moved into the lung space and it's interfering with the lung function. So this foal was breathing just like a dog with diaphragmatic hernia. So they shipped it over to the Rochester Equine Clinic. This is back in the early 70s when we didn't have as many diagnostics we have today. They were able to take an x-ray, and it did have a diaphragmatic hernia. And they were quite impressed that I made the diagnosis in the field. And then they operated and the diaphragm and sewed it back. And about a year later, the lady calls me with that horse, and the horse is down with colic, and it's really sick. And she said, "Do you realize it's a year since the diaphragmatic hernia?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "You know what's happened? That diaphragm, the animal grew so much that the stitches didn't hold, and the diaphragm re-ruptured, and the horse re-ruptured its diaphragm. We had to end up putting the horse to sleep."
What sad. So that can happen very much, very in-depth, and there's a lot of this stuff in the book, Animal Answers. Let me ask you, Doctor, do you plan on writing more in the future? And if you did, what genres would you explore?
I think I would do one on just I still could write another book on interesting cases. I mean, the interesting thing about when you're treating an animal, I learned off quickly, not only did I have a patient that was sick, I had a client that was also very upset. So you got to deal with both. And that was something that I learned early, and
right.
I always tried to take that into consideration. I mean, I have...
well, you got to be a psychologist as well.
No question about it. Some of these animals, boy, I'm telling you, they...
yeah, I can imagine
I think some of them times I had the famous story in my book about Inky, the black poodle dog, and they used to come with this dog. It had congestive heart failure, and one day the lady came in, and I said, "Where's your husband?" "Oh," she said, "he's at Maine Med. He's had a heart attack." And she said, "He's in intensive care, but they think he's going to make it." So they did the surgery, and then he got sick, and he ended up dying the day that he was to come home. And she came in about 2 weeks later, and I said, "How's your husband doing?" "Oh," she said, "he died." "Oh," I said, "He did?" "Yeah." And she didn't really make much of it. So then about maybe a year later, the dog started developing congestive heart failure, just like her husband. So we started treating the dog, and my God, I couldn't do enough for this dog. I mean, she just, come on, And I said, well, so anyway, she called me one night. The dog was really quite sick, so I went to her house, and we had to end up putting it to sleep at her house, and we got talking. And so she said, "How much do I owe you?" She got a check, and all of a sudden I saw a picture of her husband there on the bureau, and I grabbed the picture and I looked, and I says, "Why don't we make it out to the American Heart Association and put it in memory of your husband?
Oh, lovely.
He died of the same thing your dog did." And then, man, she just broke right down.
Yeah.
And we talked, and we became best friends. But it's interesting how sometimes an animal can sort of be like a baby, and you really want to baby it its whole life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, animals to people, little doggies, puppies, all sorts and breeds.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose you would have loved the TV show, All Things Great and Small. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
still
love
great
that
stories,
too.
yeah.
That was a big hit in Australia, I got to tell you. All Things Great and Small. But I don't know if I could do your job. I'd be breaking down, bawling myself all the time, I mean, you got to bury little things and what have you. Speaking of that, being a veterinarian, I know you specialized in horses and so on, but did people ever bring all sorts of animals to you as a vet, like pet snakes or something?
Oh, yeah. I had, I took care of a couple of snakes. It's tough to treat them just because you really can't really do a good exam on them. Most of the time you try a little antibiotic or something like that.
Right.
I had to work on it was not really a monkey. It was between a monkey, probably go around 7 or 8 pounds, at the York Animal Farm that was in York, Maine. And he wasn't eating, but you couldn't get near him. So basically we put some antibiotic in his food and tried to treat him. He ended up dying. And I said, well, I'd like to do an autopsy on him to see what he died of, to see if we could learn anything. I always tried to post any animal that died just because I always learned a lot from doing that.
Yes.
There's a lot of unknowns. Now, don't forget, I practice veterinary medicine, but we've had a lot of the lab equipment diagnostics that we have today. So I've got, and he had swallowed a garden hose.
Well, folks, you've heard a lot. Dr. Doug's Animal Answers. It's a must-read for all animal lovers. It's easily digestible storytelling, you would enjoy it. It makes for touching stories that any reader, I think, could enjoy. That's why I think it'd be a great gift to somebody. The vast number of veterinary topics covered, they do showcase his many, many years of experience. So you can imagine the stories in there. And, as I said, each individual part filled with heart and lessons to learn. It's available on Amazon and also at Dorrance Publishing. That's all this, by the way, is on Dr. Hutchins' page with his headshot, bio, and the interview on markbishopmedia.com. And, of course, it's distributed on many, many podcast platforms, or on your favorite podcast platforms, and also on YouTube. Hopefully I'll revisit him one day where we can do it visually. But it's been fascinating, Doctor. An absolute pleasure to speak with you. And I think this book will do well. It's a beautiful book. It really is. Animal Answers. And easy to find on Amazon, correct? Not a problem?
Right.
All right. So all the very, very best. Thank you for sharing with us on Nothing Like a Good Book. And I invite you, I do, another time we'll get together and let's get you visually on, okay?
Thanks a lot, Mark. I really appreciate you taking the time.
You're most welcome. And stay safe.
Have a good day.
But goodbye now.
Bye.